output data are missing. Okay, so in SAS, you can use something called as a sum function, where um, this is another function. We talked about functions before, the upcase function. I'm going to use the sum function on mod_u and see what happens instead of using the plus. Okay, they work slightly differently from each other. Okay, so this is better, I would say. We don't have all missing values for the total mortgage due, but it's not really giving me what I want, right? I want the second value to be a sum of these two values, whereas it's just printing the same information. So let's again check the log quickly. Um, okay, so it again still says missing values were generated as a result of performing an operation on missing value. So let's go back here. Um, okay, so there are some cases where let me explain what's happening here. Okay, so when sum doesn't throw the same, if I'm adding one missing value and one value, it's going to actually give me the value. We saw that, right? Total mortgage due is missing. Uh, mort it didn't have a value to start with, and mort due has a value. The first record had 25,000 something. So missing value plus value, it gives me a value. Okay, it put the value out. So sum, when you're adding uh, when you're adding two things, with one with a missing value and one with a not missing value, it treats the missing value as zero. Okay, and therefore it's able to provide a sum. Whereas when you do it this way, it doesn't do the same thing. So that's where the difference comes in. And the message that you saw missing values was when both of these were missing, then it treats it as a missing value and puts a missing value outside. But at least when one has a value which is non-missing, then it treats the rest of it as zeros and it sums it up and gives you the value. So that's the difference. Okay, so but again, it didn't provide the output that I wanted. It basically copied the module and for that row and put that as part of as same as the total module. So the reason for this, remember when we go back to the top, when I have a new variable created in the system, it's going to be reset to missing value. It's not retaining the value of the total module from the previous step. In order to do that, we use a retain statement. So this is the format of the retain statement. You use the keyword retain, then the name of the variable that you want to retain, and then the initial value. So this is the initial value of the variable that you're providing. So I'm initializing it to 0, but this 0 is not a reset every time it goes back to the top. It's only the very first value. After that, whatever is in my total mortgage due at the end of that step will be retained into the next step as well. Okay, so let me run this and show you. Okay, that's a lot better. The 25,860 for the first record is that, and then the second value from mort gets added to that value, so I get a running sum now. So that's a lot better. So you see, this is done because um, we added the retain statement. Therefore, it retained this 25,860 to the next record as well, the next iteration of the data step. And then when I added total mort plus mort u, this came from the previous iteration. It was not set to missing value, and it was able to then add this mort u to it to get the new total mortgage due. Okay. Okay, so this is one way. Remember, I told you this one way to do and multiple ways to do the same thing. Uh, there's something called a sum statement. This is a little bit confusing, but it's kind of like the C++ way of writing things. Uh, so there's another way to calculate the sum. Okay, this is called sum statement, although you're using the same plus. There is no assignment operator to the left like we did here, like we did in the first case, there's an assignment that we are trying to make. So when you use this form, magically SAS sets this initial value to 0. It sets it to retain. And so if you run this in this format using what is called as a sum statement, which is variable plus expression, okay, that's what it's called. So now you can see that it actually gives you what you want. So there's even simpler way of doing it rather than doing a retain and sum and all these other things. You can simply use what is called as this sum statement. I don't know why it's called that. It's a bit weird. It took me a second to adopt the language, but that's what it's called. But when this is kind of the format variable plus expression, and when you use this format, this variable is automatically set to 0 in this case at the beginning of the first iteration, and then from there on it's retained. So you don't have all of this can just be done with this. Okay. All right. So now we saw retain statement and how to do that. Let's move on to the next one. Now I'm going to create some examples here. Uh, there are 4 states that surround Wisconsin. Okay, those are Illinois, Michigan, Iowa, and Illinois, Minnesota, Iowa, and Michigan. I mean, I'm just creating input data sets for what I'm trying to show you. But the point here is that again, I've subset the data using dataset option where equal to, and then I'm saying upcase of state. Again, we saw this upcase in the previous case. I'm using a new operator called in. I want to check in for multiple choices. So I'm checking in, but we previously where we said state equal to Wisconsin, like we did here. Now I'm checking against multiple states. And again, I think it was Sai who asked me, do we have formatting? No, there's no formatting. Look at how I've done this. I've pushed the Michigan down. It doesn't matter how you do it. Um, so Illinois, Minnesota. So in clause to check against multiple values. Okay, so that's why I'm showing you that. So I'm going to create 2 examples here, 2 data sets. Okay, all I need to know is that it was created without errors, and it was. Okay, so stacking the data sets, meaning I want to put one data set on top of the other. So I want to first put Wisconsin, followed by the neighbors. There's a lot of records in here, so I'm going to select only 20 observations from Wisconsin and 50 observations, the top 20 and the top 50 observations from the neighboring states. Okay, so here you see there are 70 rows in the output, 20 plus 50 is 70. And if I scroll to the right here, you see the top states are Wisconsin, and then I start getting information from my other states, the other neighboring state, Illinois, Minnesota, Michigan, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it's put one data set and stack it's put one data set stacked on top of the other. Okay, so interleaving data sets, meaning um, I want to use some sort of bivariable. Maybe I want to order my data in terms of the cities in all of these states. Okay, but for interleaving data sets, your data set needs to be um, sorted in order to do that. Again, I don't know if everybody saw the sort video, but just to recap that, proc sort is the procedure name. Data equal to is the keyword to identify the input data set, and then by city means please sort the record by my city names or by the city variable. Okay, that's all this is. And I don't have an out equal to, which means it's going to overwrite the input data set itself as a sorted data set. So this is to prepare my data for it's just to prepare my data, no errors. Okay, so now I want to interleave it, meaning I want to mishmash the data together, but I want it to be done by the city values. Okay, so all I did to the previous statement was I said by city. Okay, and remember, whenever you're using by statement in anything, be it data step, be it procedure, be it, you know, uh, any situation, that your input data sets need to be sorted by that in the same order that you're using in that by statement. Okay. Okay. So let's go here. Now you see that the states are not in the previous order. Previously it was Wisconsin followed by the neighboring states. Now it's, because it's ordered based on the city values, and so now the states are all mixed up. Okay, so that's called interleaving your data.